African American journalists have been active in Rochester since the 19th century. Our mentor, Frederick Douglass, lived and worked here and even published the revered North Star newspaper in the Talman Building, right in the heart of the city. The North Star newspaper was a symbol of the fight for justice, equality, and fairness in America. In the 20th century, it was Howard Coles who became the first African American broadcast journalist.
But remember this, they all worked in the mines and the mills. And they were all friendly, they were all understanding, and most of the time there was a meeting of minds, and somehow or another they got along.
He was publisher of the Frederick Douglass Voice newspaper from 1934 through 1996. Coles is the Dean of African American Broadcasters in Rochester. In the 1960s, Earl Caldwell was one of the first black newspaper reporters hired by the Democratic Chronicle. As Howard Coles broke barriers on radio, and with the Frederick Douglass Voice newspaper, there was still a lack of black reporters and personalities on television. In Rochester, racial tensions ignited the now famous 1964 riots. By 1968, with the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King and ensuing riots across the nation, media owners could no longer ignore the obvious. Stations began an effort to recruit and train black talent. In the 1970s, Barbara Rogers was hired as a local TV show host. Jim and Carolyn Blunt began publication of About Time magazine.
About Time would reflect the African American community.
So basically what we did was just a continuation of the historical legacy that's been put forth for almost 200 years now. So this is not a new dilemma.
And we've worked very hard for more than 40 years to try to bring that to fruition and give people who did not have a voice, give them an opportunity to say what it was that they were about and to express themselves.
Around the same time, Wyoming Best came to WHEC TV 10. And became the first African American female reporter delivering the news on local television.
Apparently, the jury felt there was enough evidence to convict Rosario Chirico. They found him guilty of loan sharking. Wyoming Best TV 10 News, Hall of Justice.
A true broadcast pioneer, Best opened the doors for countless others to follow in her path. In 1974, Andrew and Gloria Langston made history by establishing WDKX Radio. It has emerged as one of the top radio stations in Rochester today. By the 1980s and 1990s, these pioneers paved the way for many of us to come to the Rochester airwaves. In the early 1980s through 2000, local black journalists got together and formed the Rochester Association of Black Communicators.
We used to meet monthly with Wyoming when she was trying to get the organization off the ground. We didn't have as many people in the media back in those days as we have now.
Well, we wanted to network and look out for each other and influence the coverage at the Rochester media outlets of the black community.
Janet was the first president of the group, Janet Lomax, so you really had a very outstanding group.
A group dedicated to representing the growing number of black media professionals. RABC went on hiatus in the early 2000s.
And so a group of people, mainly at the Democrat and Chronicle, where I was a staff writer, editorial assistant there, thought that we really needed to get active again.
I realized we needed a chapter because when I went to the NABJ national meetings, I was the only person from Rochester.
So it was Gary McClendon, a staff writer there, Maidstone Malenga, who was a business reporter, business editor, and James Johnson, a sports reporter, and myself and some others.
Professional journalists of color in Rochester saw a need for a place that we could share our concerns and share industry knowledge. And so we decided to meet informally as individuals on a regular basis around 2003.
The Rochester Association of Black Journalists picked up the baton April 17, 2004.
Well, that was a wonderful day. A lot of goodwill was shared that day. It was an accomplishment. We were all happy to be able to carry the banner as a chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists.
I'm the third president of RABJ, and I stand on the shoulders of these previous presidents. They paved the way for where we are right now. And I think that each time that we have an administration, it's important that we build on that administration and get better and better and better. We strengthen our message and our mission by reaching out across the aisles and communicating and bringing people together.
It took me a while to understand what kind of meeting I was in, actually. You know, I didn't know I was in a room full of black Republicans, being the African-American Democrat.
There are a lot of projects that we are involved in. One of my big things was to rebrand the organization. I felt that we needed a fresh start, to restart, to reset 2.0. And my big thing was to reset who we are and what our mission is, and make sure people know who we are, what our mission is, and also to become a 501. Everybody that came before us has contributed in some way to this happening. Everybody, all going back years. Mm-hmm. So this is a good status. This is a status now that allows us to expand, to work on our endowment, to have more workshops, to bring people in. I mean, this is a good time for RABJ, and we just wanted to thank everybody and have a little toast.
Yes.
Cheers.
The organization has become more known in the community. We've had people that have actively sought out RABJ to be part of their programs.
The community conversation, we actually did 2 community conversations.
The first one that came up was dealt with police community relations.
Improving the relationship between the Rochester Police Department and the community. That was the goal of a public safety forum held this afternoon. Both Rochester Police Chief Michael Simonelli and Mayor Lovely Warren were there to answer questions. People had an opportunity to interact with officers. Some city residents expressed concerns about violence in the city. The event was held by the Rochester Association of Black Journalists.
The second one we were invited to work with Simeon Bannister, who was the head of the Martin Luther King Commission.
The African American Leadership Development Program is also an opportunity for individuals in the program to know how to communicate with journalists, communicate with media people. A lot of them will be running organizations.
It was a great privilege, actually. I appreciated how the questions that were being asked, how people were really trying to figure out, why do you tell these stories this certain way, but you don't tell the stories this way?
We partnered with 100 reporters in Washington, D.C. for a discussion about investigative journalism. RABJ organized workshops for high school students interested in journalism, public relations, and other communication fields. The organization has continued to form new alliances and collaborations.
Causewave Community Partners hosted a race and media breakfast this morning. The purpose of the event was to provide perspective on representations of certain races in local media. Local media professionals chimed in on a panel discussion to give insight on ways to help news stories better reflect our own community and the people in it.
I was very surprised. I didn't know this many journalists here were interested in reporting on the census or incorporating those elements into their work. It's not the most glitzy and glamorous topic, but the fact that folks out here cared enough to show up exceeds all of my expectations.
The community response has been tremendous over the years.
The Black Cinema Series was also a great accomplishment for us.
The Black Cinema Series is a joint venture with the Little Theater here in Rochester. What a fantastic collaboration. Prior to this, as Kevin was talking about, the Rochester Black Communicators had a film component, they had film festivals. It's keeping with that tradition, showing stories, relating documentaries and narrative films about people in the Black community, African American community.
Natural hair is so liberating. I've been on this journey for about 15, 20 years. When I was at Cornell, I had a friend who went natural and she insisted that I did, and I was just not quite ready yet. And just this past June, I actually decided I wanted to be free. And it's the best decision I've ever made.
Businesses are closed. Please return home. All businesses are closed. Week 2 is over.
So recently I was part of the poverty simulation. It helped people understand what people go through in poverty. Understanding when you have no one or you don't have any money to take care of your immediate family is very stressful.
I took lead on the Black Media Brunch, which I thought was very successful. It was very fun, and we actually sold out.
The Wyoming Best Scholarship Fund for Future Journalists provides financial assistance to graduating high school seniors interested in communications and media studies. Maystone is the one that was behind the Wyoming Best Scholarship.
And we thought, how this is the best way we could honor her, by giving a scholarship to honor one of the best Black journalists Rochester has ever seen.
The tradition of giving back continues. Celebrating the 200th anniversary of Frederick Douglass, RABJ was a media sponsor and produced a series of television and radio vignettes narrated by RABJ members to spread the timeless words of the great statesman, author, and abolitionist.
A battle lost or won is easily described, understood, and appreciated. But the moral growth of a great nation requires reflection as well as observation to appreciate it. The life of a nation is secure only while the nation is honest, truthful, and virtuous. Frederick Douglass. Celebrating the 200th anniversary of Frederick Douglass, I'm Casey Jones.
The Salute to Excellence is an evening gala honoring pioneers in Rochester media and noted people in the community. Preserving our history and the promotion of education is a great priority.
And I just remember everybody talking about how elegant it was and how wonderful the event was, and that we were honoring our own.
Rochester Legends is an award-winning documentary series focused on Rochester's rich African American heritage.
There's a lot of good and positive things going on, and I think it takes us to highlight those things.
And because we're journalists, because we are people that are of record, we had an opportunity to tell their stories.
I think that we can be a true mirror to the community and reflect what's going on within not only within the African American community, but the greater civic community of Rochester and Monroe County.
You can't let somebody tell your narrative from your lens. This is who we are. This is stories about our lives. And I mean, not all Black folks have the same experience, but yet there's some similar things. And I think it's just only right that we tell our story.
We will always be a watchdog to challenge, speak out, and defend our own.
Justin Carter being arrested.
Come on.
Being arrested.
This is a journalist doing his job out there, and I'd like to...
Justin, I'm going to try
Carla Claire being taken into custody.
Justin Carter.
Where is our police chief and where is the mayor right now? We are covering this story.
Now, these two individuals, they happen to be people of color. They weren't members of RABJ. They weren't members of our organization, but we came to their defense.
I wasn't really surprised. I was disappointed, but I wasn't surprised. And, you know, I actually know Justin. I had talked to him and everything. And, you know, it was really disappointing, but I mean, what can you say?
It was extreme. There was no way that
any person in law enforcement would not recognize that they were media professionals. They were credentialed, they had branded material on, and they were simply doing their jobs. And so for me, that says that, again, it's a reason why the Rochester Association of Black Journalists is needed.
So the meteorologist, in describing Martin Luther King Park, said Martin Luther Coon King Park. He jumbled his words, he said, and so that coon is a racial slur. So once that racial slur was broadcast on a Friday, we found out about it on a Saturday, we issued a statement on a Sunday, and we said we wanted to know, why did this happen?
It's simple examples like what happened with Jeremy Capel that gives RABJ its relevance.
RABJ has been honored with numerous prestigious awards between 2015 and 2020, including national and local awards for its Rochester Legends documentary series, the Black Cinema Series, and Chapter of the Year in 2019. A distinction establishing us as a premier organization in the nation. As a member, it's all volunteer and can be a lot of work. You must be serious and dedicated. We continue to carry on the tradition, providing support, expanding opportunities, and helping to maintain the recognition of the local Black media. We continue to grow and tap into a younger generation.
Rochester's newsrooms should reflect the diversity of its communities.
And that's the mission of RABJ. Whether you're a media professional, student, or educator, please join us.
Visit rabjonline.org.
We always remember our own. In recent months, we lost two of our greatest members. Jim and Carolyn Blunt were publishers of About Time magazine since the 1970s. Their tireless coverage of the community and dedication to journalism has made all of us better. We learned so much from them, and they will be remembered.
As we go forward for the next 20 years, I just hope and pray that we can continue to do the things that we've already done and continue to strive to become what we want to be.
You guys are amazing. You go, and I know you're going to do more.
This is the city of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass publishes North Star in downtown Rochester. Every journalist of color should come through Rochester. Always following our mission and gaining inspiration from our mentor.